Assalamu alaikum. Right. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Today we are going to take a little journey, and before we actually start getting into it, let me start with a brief apology. This was supposed to be a slide presentation, kind of a PowerPoint presentation, but we are a bit handicapped with equipment, so we're going to have to just do the best we can without the benefit of you seeing the slides. My topic is finding a balance between roots and renewal, healing faith and identity fragmentation in a modern world. Healing faith and identity fragmentation in a modern world. In keeping with the theme of this weekend, of this conference, which is the balance between Islamic tradition and modernity, we are going to talk about identity fragmentation. First, we'll define it so that no one is confused about exactly what identity fragmentation is all about. And then we will define the problem of identity fragmentation. And at the end, we will attempt to present solutions as to how we overcome this identity fragmentation. Okay, thank you, brothers, for extending the seating capacity. So in trauma psychology, but well, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Yusuf Malik Frederick, and my specialty or expertise is in the fields of law, with a Juris Doctorate in law, and psychology, PhD in psychology. And so the research that we are asking you to do is, or participate in, thank you, is part of my research as I explore the psychological impacts of racial trauma and spiritual abuse among African American Muslims. So I need your help in getting the right sample. I need your help with your input so that we can collect the data. We have some data, but we need more data. We need about 150 of you this weekend to complete those surveys. And by the way, there is an opportunity to win $250 upon the completion of the survey. I don't think they can hear me in the back. Okay? So, thank you. I mean, it's only one speaker, and the mic and the speaker is apparently on life support. So it's real difficult. So let's go with this because my time is limited. In trauma psychology, the concept of identity fragmentation refers to a breakdown or a disruption in an individual's self of self, or a breakdown in their personal identity. This is often linked to trauma stresses or trauma experiences. The fragmentation that I'm speaking about actually results in a lack of integration of different aspects of the self, or a lack of integration of one's perception, one's behavior. Let me give you some statistics. 20% of Muslims in America are black, and half of those are reverts or converts. These Muslims experience pressures of racism and Islamophobia. And this racism and Islamophobia causes what is called in psychology identity fragmentation. People are struggling to find themselves, struggling to find a landing place that is comfortable, struggling to find who are we as individuals and who are we as a community. The Middle East-centered culture usually define for us authentic Islam. And so when we talk about Islam, invariably we think about foreign Muslims. We don't think about ourselves. True or false? True. When we think about the norm of Islam, our minds go to foreigners. Our minds go to Middle Easterners. Our minds don't go to black people. African Americans have always experienced a tension, a psychological tension between three things: assimilation, follow me, acculturation, stay with me, and integration. Let me define that. Assimilation is where one suppresses their own cultural identity to conform to what we consider the norm. Acculturation refers to adopting a new culture while maintaining one's original culture and identity. Integration refers to maintaining one's authentic identity while authentically engaging in a second identity. So what we wrestle with, what the tension is about, the tension is about assimilation, which most of us do, and integration. And here's how those play out. Assimilation, for those of us who engage in assimilation, and these are not things that we decide to do. These are what is called automated responses. And so we see this dominant culture and we automatically assimilate into that culture. Let me give you some examples. Can I talk freely? Y'all won't go back and tell Imam Shadid, would you?
We got it on tape.
Huh?
We got it on tape.
We'll keep that confidence. Here's what this sound is killing me.
Mashallah.
It's all right. I used to be a preacher in Christianity, but I left that. Here's what I'm talking about. Back in the 70s, even now, sisters, you remember straightening your hair, right? Don't admit to it. You remember the hot comb? Huh? Trying to straighten the hair with that smell. I remember that smell with the Vaseline. You know, assimilation, straight hair. Want that straight hair. The first time I went to Africa, when I was a student, I went there as a student missionary. And when we got off the plane, one of the first things I saw was all these billboards on the highway, and these billboards said, "Look lighter and lovelier." And that's that skin lightening cream. Michael Jackson went a step further. He had surgery with it. And so the impact was, the lighter you are, the whiter you are. The straighter your hair, the more you are assimilated to the dominant culture, which is white people. Just to be clear, for those of you on the camera. And so assimilation has always been a motif or a motivating factor for black people. There was a time in our experience when light skin was in, until Wesley Snipes came up with New Jack City. And brothers that look like me gotta play. Y'all see my wife, I gotta play. I'm married up. She's right here up front. And so when Wesley came out, the brothers that looked like me felt a little better because black was in. Say it loud, black and I'm proud. And so we were moving towards assimilation, because everybody wanted to be like they were not. Everybody wanted to be somebody else. And so we grew up as African Americans, identity confused. We had an identity dysphoria, an identity dissonance, an identity dysfunction. So here comes Islam. And now Joseph becomes Yusuf. And Kevin becomes Kareem. And George becomes Shadid. And we start changing our identity to an other than. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with the changing of your name from a label to something to aspire to, something with meaning. Okay? Because these westernized names are not names, they're just labels. No more than door, cat, you know, table, chair, they're just labels. Okay? Shadid or Shahid means a witness, right? Abdullah means servant of God, servant of Allah, right? So now we have always attempted and felt the need to change our identity. Again, identity fragmentation. Who we are has always been disjointed. There's always been a tension. There's always been questions about who are we as an individual and as a person. So much so that brothers make skirts and call them izars. Brothers put on, some of them, I don't even know what they be putting on, but they figure that the more foreign they look is the more Muslim they look. Because their identity with Islam is not with the heart. It is with the clothes. It is with the dress. Identity fragmentation reflects a loosening of one's identity. And psychologically, it causes damage to our mental because it means that our belonging is insecure. Our foundation is insecure. Who we are confused about. Now let me give you the psychology of fragmentation. The psychology of fragmentation is that our lived experience create identity conditions where our self becomes divided. In the street, they call it code switching. When you on the job, people don't know if you white or black. If you on the phone, because you don't talk like when you home. You get on the phone at home, your sister's like, Shahida, is that you? Malik, is that you? Why you talking like that? Don't laugh so hard. Like, I don't recognize you. They call it code switching, right? So in the Muslim spaces, you are your Muslim self. In the African American space, you are your black self. In mainstream American culture, you are brown man from New York. And so all these selves are all over the place. And you've got to remember where you are to determine who you are. Are you following this?
Yes.
A lot of confusion going on. And so this fragmentation produces a psyche where non-Arab identities feel less Islamic and less desirable. So being Yusuf from New York, which is actually who I am, so excuse the swagger, is confusing to us. But I want to propose something to you. You've got to eventually marry your Islamic self with your African American self with your black self, so that all those individual disparate selves become one you in order to coexist authentically. Because you see me up here, I got the thobe on, I got the kufi on, and then you like, man, that's a good brother to marry. And then we get married and we go home and I'm like, yo, can I get something to eat? You're like, whoa, who's that? You know? And I start saying, well, you know, come home from work, and you're like, baby, how was your day? I said, well, you know, not me. It was all right. You're like, I mean, brother. Like, who's that? And so we've got to find a way, y'all. We've got to find a way to be our authentic self as Muslims, as African American Muslims, the modern struggle for authenticity, the internal tension between faith, culture, and belonging. For example, you've got the kid, and you're so happy to have this little boy, and you give him the most beautiful name. Thank you, brother. I'm going to call him Muhammad. One that is worthy of praise. And he grows up, Muhammad, Muhammad. And you send him to school, and now he's in high school, and you go pick him up, and you hear the kids, yo, Mo. And you, well, you're not paying no attention because your son's name is Muhammad. And yo, Mo. And your son turns around, you're like, what the? So our children now are not Muhammad, they're Mo. Identity dysphoria. He's trying to figure out who he is. But the problem is, you don't know who you are, so he don't know who he is, and everybody's confused. And we wonder, why are our children not holding on to the rope of Allah? Why are they not doing what they're supposed to do? And so we are adopting pseudo-Arab expressions. Nobody says thank you anymore. It has to be shukran, because I'm Muslim. Like it don't mean the same thing. No more you welcome, ayakum. Yo, we so confused. We so confused. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. So why you say good morning? So I can't say both. Are you following this? Mm-hmm. And so Mo and them, your little girl, beautiful little girl, Aisha, she's now Isha. Nobody knows who they are. Assimilation suppresses heritage. Integration maintains heritage and maintains identity. Self-modifying behavior reveals internal conflict. Whenever you see people disregarding themselves, it's like someone at work. My supervisor told me, I work now, my day job is being a lawyer for DirecTV and AT&T, and we're in a meeting, and my supervisor told me we're on a call, and he made the statement. He didn't tell me. I mean, I'm the only black on the call. He's talking about, you know, and you've heard this. You know, I don't see color. It's like, I was like, Stephen, so you don't see me. Because as black as I'm is, how dare you say to me, you don't see color? I got to smile just for you to see, you know what I mean, that I'm here. So if you don't, if you don't see my race, then you are silencing me. You are disappearing me. You are ignoring me, because who I am and how I look is integral to who I am. They are not separate. My Africanness, my Americanness is me. And my Islam mixed with my race combined is the sum total of who I am. You can't tell me it doesn't matter, because it does matter. I had to straighten them out on the call. African American Muslims are often inclined to adopt Middle Eastern norms. Acculturation occurs, as I said before, autonomously, whereas integration involves maintaining one's original cultural identity while engaging authentically with the other culture. And I want to take a moment to talk about internalized oppression. When we talk about oppression, we generally refer to an external force oppressing us. But the fact of the matter is, and the Quran talks about it, the Quran talks about our oppressing our own selves. See, you can oppress your own self. And we have to free ourselves from that. Where you have the cultural hierarchies in Muslim spaces elevate Arab culture. And I'm not downing Arab culture, I'm just saying one has to distinguish it from your own. Some internalize the belief that our own culture is less than Islamic. And it leads to an over-identification with certain cultural markers that are stressors and internally oppressive. There's a theory in psychology, this is a real thing, that was developed by Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R. You can look it up, Meyer 2003. Just Google it. It's called minority stress theory. And this theory holds that individuals from stigmatized minority groups experience chronic stress due to prejudice and discrimination, which leads to negative mental health outcomes. There's an overlapping pressure of anti-blackness, Islamophobia, intra-Muslim marginalization. If you've ever been to a non-African American masjid, you will experience an interesting form of marginalization. My wife comes home and tells me from time to time, when she says, you know, nobody in that masjid salamed me. And brothers, you know, you lining up in the ranks next to one of the brothers, and the closer you get to him, the further he goes. First time I seen her, I was like, yo, shoulder to shoulder, man. You know, heel to heel, man. And I literally did this, man. The brother said, I was like, man, if we weren't in, like, what is wrong with you? Okay? And so there is an interesting inter-Islamic discrimination that is debilitating. And what that does, brothers and sisters, is that it causes, unbeknownst to you, it causes a form of anxiety, it causes a form of identity conflict, and it causes a form of fragmentation, because it forces you psychologically to think to yourself, I am not as good as. And particularly because we are not native Arabic speakers. And I was pleased to hear one of the sheikhs say yesterday that you can read the Quran in the language you understand. Now it's okay to read the Mus'haf in Arabic, but if you are not a native Arabic speaker, or you learned like one of the sheikhs, and that is such a handicap to African Americans, right? Because then we go back to the time I grew up Catholic. And in the time when I grew up, the Bible was only in Latin, at least in the church. And so you go to Mass, you go to church, and only the preacher reads from the Bible because only he knew Latin. And the only thing the congregation was responsible to do is say, Amen. That's it. That was your role. That was your cue. And being a revert, when I came to Islam, and it's over 30 years now, but it was an interesting thing, dynamic for me, because only the imam was, and the congregation was just, Ameen. And so you've been to Taharawi Salat, and at the end of the Taharawi, and the imam, if he is Hafiz al-Quran, he starts praying and making du'as, and he does that. If he's like Sheikh Abdulaziz, 20 minutes you up there like that, your hands is tired, and you like that. But you don't know what he's saying, but you are there, Ameen. Now there's nothing wrong with that, but what it does is this. There's a feeling, and you can't tell me no, of less than. And so we've got to be very, very careful. Very, very careful. That our religion to us is not just surface deep. And that we understand that we are authentic Muslims regardless of the fact that we are not native Arabic speakers. Because why? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is our guy. He's our prophet. Why? Because he is the universal prophet, and I am a part of this universe. And so he belongs to me. I had to tell a brother that. I said, he says, well, our prophet. I was, no. My prophet, that's what you're talking about, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I said, oh, then understand, that's my guy. You don't lay any special claim to my guy. Within Muslim communities, where you have Arab and South Asian cultural norms, African American Muslims often internalize the belief that their own cultural expressions are not enough. And so we have to understand that and heal from it. How do we do that? By having culturally affirming Muslim spaces. By engaging in educational initiatives that separate culture from Islam. By some of the things my brother Imam Mustafa, who just moved here from Jersey and is here in Baltimore, by having mentorship programs, diverse leadership programs, and intergenerational dialogue that lets our young people know and lets remind our older folks that Islam is ours. One of the most beautiful books I've read was a book by Mustafa Briggs called Beyond Bilal, Black History in Islam. where he identified so many beautiful black Muslims, starting with Ayman, the woman who raised Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam after the death of his mother. Black woman. Now you know when a black woman raises you. We all been raised by a black woman. You know what that means. You know? Little collard greens, little mac and cheese, you know? The family of Zayd ibn Harith, who the Prophet adopted. He could adopt anybody. He adopted this little black boy, Zayd, little black boy. Called him his son. And Zayd's son, Usama ibn Zayd, who became one of the foremost generals in Islam. Saad al-Aswad al-Samani, a companion who was African-American, well, who was African, of African descent, and known for his deep piety, who faced intra-Muslim racial discrimination, so much so that none of these Arabs would marry him to their daughter. And so the Prophet says, come here, man, let me find you a wife. And arranged a marriage for him to one of the most beautiful sisters. And that sister's father said to her, are you going to marry him? Why? She says, because the Prophet ﷺ chose him for me, so he must be beautiful. This brother went to war before the marriage and died. And she mourned him as if he was already her husband. Washi, who the Imam talked about yesterday, the Abyssinian man who killed Hamza and killed Musaylima for being a false prophet. Minha ibn Salih, who was one of Umar's slaves and companions, and Umar freed him and became the first martyr of the Battle of Badr. Islam, brothers and sisters,
excuse me,
our heritage, our forefathers died for it, lived for it, connected with our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for it, and supported him for it, nursed him on his journey, and supported him. Islam is our religion. Islam belongs to us, meaning me and you. Meaning me and you. Islam belongs to all of us. As indigenous people, as people of color, we have to teach that to our children. You're not a foreigner to this. This is ours. So today I can wear a thobe, and tomorrow I can wear my New York Yankee hat, turned backwards, or tilted on the side, know what I mean? And still be the same guy. I can be African American in all my African Americanness, and still be a practicing Muslim. I can be Sister whoever from Philly, and you know that's a stretch. My wife is from Philly. I tease her all the time. I say there's something different in the water over there. But I can be that and be this on the same day, in a minute, without distinction. Because all of that is me. And so now my children can walk proudly as Muhammad and not try to change his name to Mo, or Aisha and not try to be called Isha, because they are confused about who they are, because they feel like when they go to school they've got to be African American, and when they go to the masjid they've got to be Muslim, and when they walk home on the streets they've got to be somebody else. No, 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 no. We are the same person every time, all day, every day. And for those of you on the tape, every means every. So thank you for coming and for being here. I was wondering why you were so nice to me. But Shadid sent him, he's a plant. Trying to see a brother looking so good and all green and sequenced and all that. You got to look at him like that. He's like, who you with? He's the timekeeper. You got 10 minutes, brother. So thank you. Any questions?
Quick one, just real quick.
Okay.
One. You had made mention of the us changing ourselves, and I would say like one of the biggest things that I hear is the affected Arabic accent. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So my question is, how can we move forward in creating our own Islamic intelligentsia so we don't have to, like you said, you know, take other cultures in order to validate our Islam?
First of all, go to Mustafa's masjid. Mustafa, raise your hand so they can see.
Oh, repeat the question. Oh, sorry.
So,
can you repeat the question for me in the back?
yes, yes. So he is like, how can we develop our own intelligentsia? How can we be our own authentic Muslim self without trying to morphosize into being an Arab? By doing the things that I mentioned, by having culturally affirming Muslim spaces where we affirm who we are, okay? As I went through my PhD program, they did, part of the curriculum was on LGBT, and there's a whole semester on LGBT affirmative care. Affirming, I got an A, but I'm like, I'm not affirming that. What we have to affirm is who we are culturally. Affirm our cultural spaces. Young man, all right, get up, stand on the wall right here. Sister, come sit down. Other sister, come sit down. Go stand with your brother. Thank you, brother. And so we have to have culturally affirming spaces. We have to have educational initiatives where we teach each other that it's okay to be African American and Muslim. Feel good about it. You don't have to come out with a makeshift izar. You can come in a sweatsuit. I mean, for Juma, you ought to come dressed to the nines. I mean, I'm just saying, that's just me. Okay? But you can be you. Now, sisters, you still got to do it modestly. All right? I'm not saying put on a cat suit and come out here. Okay? But, you know, having mentorship programs, teaching us how to be the best us that we can be. You know? And we can do it like that. You don't have to tie your hijab like, you know, like the Pakistani. You ain't got to do it like the Saudi either, with the hijab starting halfway on your head either. But you can put your twist to it. My wife was a Project Runway celebrity. I married her. Okay, don't blame me. It was just, you know, she saw me and was like, yo, what's up, bro? And I was like, yo, what's that? You see me? Let's do this. And so she is into modest wear, right? And if you look at, you know, Project Runway season, 18, then you will see her in her Islamic splendor and glory, just doing it right. Okay? And so it can be done. It can be done. And brothers, don't think you get an escape. If you move, I'm on. Okay. So, you know, pull your pants up. Ain't nobody want to see that. You know, even in the salat, ain't nobody want to see that. You know, be decent. Be decent. Because we've got to be modest too. Modesty is not just for the sisters, right? So we can teach each other that. Aliyah? Yes. Wa alaikum salam.
Did any of your research, or do you plan to do any research on the shift that took place right after September 11th with African American Muslims? Because what I found was that specifically in Philadelphia, where there's 270,000 Muslims, 71 masajid, very large Muslim active population, where the majority is African American. What I saw was the immigrant population kind of humble themselves, because at this point they were very shocked to be kind of, you know, the enemy, labeled the enemy at that time. So what I saw specifically, we saw it linger for a couple of years, maybe till 2005, was that the immigrant Muslim population that tended to align itself with whiteness, calling themselves Mo and Isha, you know, not wearing hijab, and separating themselves.
Selling liquor on the corner store.
Right, selling blunts and all that stuff. I got another story like that. But what they found themselves is humbling themselves to the African American Muslim community, because they didn't know how to handle being the enemy.
Yeah, so for us it was like a minor E. For us it was like, we told you. For us it was like, whoo, somebody else, the heat is on somebody else now. So we were just like, okay, you know, it's not me anymore. The fact of the matter is that this man understands, he only understands one language, that is oppression. He has oppressed everyone that he has come across for centuries. This man is not your friend. Okay? This government and these Anglo-Saxons from the Caucasus Mountains hate anybody but themselves. If you don't believe that, just read the paper or the news or your feed or your podcast. Because everywhere, you know, they talk about how violent African Americans are. World War I was them. World War II was them. If there's a World War III, it's going to be them. They speak one language, and that language is violence. And that violence goes for every other marginalized community. We have always known that. We have always known that the history of the police comes from the slave catchers. They just have uniforms and badges now. We've always known that. Okay? And so when the slave catchers is running after somebody else, what we do is we bunker down wherever we are and we be quiet and listen to the dogs go past. Because when we were in trouble, they never came to our aid. They never marched for us or with us. They stood on the sidelines because it wasn't them. But if you understand oppression, you understand that if you don't speak up, when oppression comes to one of us, there is no one to speak for you when oppression comes for all of us. And so that was their awakening call. So inshallah, they would use that experience to galvanize the ummah and to become a more perfect union in terms of our oneness as an ummah, so that we can...
That it didn't though, because even with the election of last year, we had a lot of our immigrant brothers and sisters really vote for oppression, because they did not align themselves with the black Muslims that said, listen, we've already done the work for you, we showed you what it is. You know what I mean? So, but they still voted for...
That's why I don't listen to them now when they complaining.
But they wanted us to fight for Palestine. Like, it's just, but no one's fighting for Sudan. Like, it's just... It's
Well, we should fight for Palestine.
absolutely.
Because we fight against oppression wherever we see it. But the fact of the matter is, and it's never about how someone else treats us, right? The religion is in us. So we do what we do anyway, right? We do what we do anyway, okay? We act how we act anyway. But it's just sad. It's just sad that we are in this battle almost by ourselves. I'm gonna take three more. I'm not even, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna take three more questions, all right? One here, sister in the middle. Wa alaikum salam.
This is not a question, this is more of a statement to say to you, thank you. Having grown up Muslim in the 50s and 60s, and to see we've come this far, and we're still fighting the same thing. How do you see, let's say, on the imam level, to begin to have that, so that they can have that discussion, so it can filter down? Growing up, we were laughed at because of our names, but my father always spoke and talked about the connection of being African. How do we start that conversation?
Yeah, how do we get the imams on board?
Yes.
We were talking about that at breakfast this morning. Okay, so you wanted to say something. I saw your hand up. So. No. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I digress to answer.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is, our imams, they're real good in Arabic, and they are trained in the deen, but I think they need to be trained in other areas as well. Pastoral care, pastoral counseling, leadership, and all of those things. Inshallah, my real answer is I have hope in the young generation group of imams that's coming up, like Mustafa and his colleagues, even Imam Shadid and others of that age group, of that generation, as they try to be more progressive, not progressive on Quranic issues or how they interpret the Quran, okay, because that is Kalam Allah, but I'm talking about from a sociological, psychological perspective to move the ummah forward and to deal with, because, you know, we don't practice Islam in a vacuum. We live within the milieu of our environment. And so we have to deal with the pressures of the trauma of the family structure, of all of the things that we are dealing with. Listen, when your little girl says that she likes the other little girl across the street, yo, that's a real problem. That I understand we can pray about it. I understand we can fast on Mondays and Thursdays and on the full moons. I understand all that. But there is some intervention that's needed there. That's real. That's real. That you can't wish that away. And so we have got to get on the same page. I asked the imams around the table this morning, I said, man, listen, in law we have continuing educational classes. When are y'all going to start that? Y'all went to, became a student of knowledge 20 years ago, learning Quran and Sunnah. But when was the last time you learned something else? Do you visit the sick? Do you make house calls like what I used to do when I was a pastor? When the last time the imam came to your home? Don't put your hands up. Don't answer that. It's a rhetorical question. You know, that kind of thing. When I was a minister, we used to, have to bless the babies and bury the dead and not just, give the janazah salat and then see you doing Juma. I'm talking about visit you, sit with you, cry with you. We've got to get back to that so that we can be connected, the imams, with the ummah. So that the ummah can have trust in our guidance. So that the ummah can have trust in our advice, our nasiyah. So that we can connect with people's pain and their passions. And not rule from the ivory tower. Because that don't work. Run tell that. You know what I mean? One more question. Just one more. In the back, the brother. Wa alaikum salam. Ameen. Use your deep voice, brother.
It's a very, I was saying that Allah reward you for what you have presented.
Yeah.
It's a very deep and delicate subject. But what I was asked, how do we acknowledge the historical and psychological wounds carried by African American Muslims while ensuring that our methodology for healing remains rooted in the Quran and Sunnah, rather than mirroring the same systems, mentalities, or reactions that cause the harm?
Right, of course. How can we, what is our methodology vis-a-vis Islamic psychology that heals wounds rather than just mirroring the same practices that cause the wounds? Because we understand that the arsonist and the firefighter is the same guy. I don't know if you got that. We understand that the guy starting the fire and the guy that's running to the fire is the same guy. So we have to be able to have our own extinguisher to be able to douse the fire. Because when we think he's putting the fire out, he's spreading it. Okay? And this is what I meant by making sure our leadership, that we trust them, that we believe in them, that they connect with us, because then we can trust their guidance. Okay? And the fact that we can use, look, Malik Badri, who is the father of Islamic psychology, existed and came up with principles before Freud and Maslow and all of those westernized Greek so-called, European so-called psychologists. We have the blueprint already. We don't have to go look for it. We have the blueprint already. But one of the issues is, brother, that the first problem is AA teaches you, Alcohol Anonymous, that before you can seek healing, you got to get up and say, my name is Yusuf Malik, and I am an alcoholic. We've got to recognize our own problem, recognize our issue. And once we recognize our issue, then we become on the path to healing. One of the problems with our ummah is we don't recognize how sick we are. My wife went to Eid in Philly, and not one fight among the sisters, but 2 fights broke out. I was like, at the Eid? At the Salah? She said, yeah. 2 Eids ago, Aliyah, a shooting during the Eid. And who was shooting? Muhammad, Shaheed, Yusuf, Aisha. Oh, Aisha is she's strapped too. And what I'm saying is we have to recognize the trauma within our own society and heal ourselves. And don't just depend on Shadid. Don't just depend on Mustafa. Our problems are so deep rooted. Sister, you need therapy. Brother, you need professional help. Okay? Mustafa was telling us this morning, they're getting together for Salat. And one of the brothers in his masjid here in Baltimore beat up another brother in the masjid. Hit him with a 2-piece. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? You got to do that too. You know what I mean? Okay. Brother didn't know how to block or duck. So he caught it. Bang, bang. Yeah. Okay. And unbeknownst to him, mother had just sent a young boy, go in the masjid and pray. The young boy got good sense. When he saw that, bang, 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 he ran back out to his mother. The mother said, I told you, go in and pray. She says, I can't, mommy. The Muslims are in the Musalla fighting. That ain't got nothing to do with westernized psychology, brother. That got to do with we've got a problem. We've got a problem that we've got to recognize and we've got to deal with, and we've got to begin the process of healing and recognition and transformation. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. We'll see you next time. Those of you who have not, please just come down front, and I'm going to send my wife back there. Well, no, let me send one of these young brothers back there. Please, please scan this QR code and take the survey, please. Please. Thank you very much. Salam alaikum.
Scan that code real quick. Thank you.
May Allah bless you, Dr. Yusuf, and your family as well.
Ameen.
For the information. Sisters, the lunchtime was at 1 o'clock, so the next lecture will be at 2 p.m. Imam Shadid Muhammad in the Salon E in the main hall at 2 p.m. His topic is 10 uncomfortable truth that every Muslim needs to hear, inshallah. Again, at 2 p.m., Imam Shadid will be in the main hall, the Salon E, inshallah.
Gonna roll, man. Gonna roll. Put it over here. Right here. Wow. It's like They said today. It's two. Yeah. Yeah, this is get it how you live. You want to know?
Yo, man, where you been, man?
I think it was the free.
I gotta introduce you. You know Mustafa?
For the hotel.
Mustafa.
Yeah, lunch. Food we brought. That was all right, man. That was all right. We need some of the.
Oh, I'm so sorry, ladies. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize this thing's so long. I'm not trying. Sorry about that.
You hear Islamic,
Right.
especially when you're out, we hear that a lot.
Yeah, and when we
Dressing like a cat.
You gotta change the culture.
yeah.
Y'all not free.
All right, so let's get ready.
Yes, sir.
Let's see what's going on.
Yes, sir.
I think the main hall, man.
Okay. Yeah. For Shadid for 2 o'clock. Yeah, we can move all that stuff over. Yeah, just take that top speaker.
I want to be from Baltimore, man, huh? Yo,
Is it,
from Water Jersey.
That's all the way there.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry.
Listen.